Hello and welcome to another instalment of the Matchbook Racing Review, where Donn and I are back. I feel like we've been on sabbatical, Donn. It's been a while, but it's great to see you again. How are you?
Likewise, yeah, it's been a while, Tom. But yeah, it's good to be back. Good to be back in the armchair, in the hot seat, and having a look at some top class racing. But no, it's nice to be back. It's an interesting time of the season as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think particularly for 2-year-olds, when Donn and I were discussing what we were going to talk about, we first of all made the decision not to look back. But given the weight of quality racing we've got, I mean, there's 7 Group 1 races between Britain and Ireland this weekend. So we thought we'd look forward first of all. But also, it's kind of the 2-year-olds which get me most excited this time of year. It always is with regard to what they're going to do next year. First thing, just a bit of fallout, which we'll just touch upon now, because we found out this morning, as we're looking at it, this is Monday evening, and you may well be watching this at home on Tuesday morning. But we know that Siskin is going to wait for the Middle Park and stay at 6 furlongs rather than running the National Stakes, which, for a racing fan, it's a shame. It's their decision, it's fine. Judd wants to sponsor the Middle Park. But we were all looking forward to the Pinatubo-Siskin Armoury matchup. It's not going to happen, but there you go.
Yeah, it is a pity, but you kind of thought that might happen. But then when I heard he was going to run in the National Stakes, you kind of thought, well, that makes sense, because it means you can try him over 7 furlongs this year as a 2-year-old, see how he does then, and then that will give you a better indication. Like if he doesn't get home over 7 furlongs, you can train him as a 6 furlong horse next year and go for the Commonwealth Cup. If he did get 7 furlongs and saw it out, then obviously you train him for the Guineas. And even if he does go and win the Middle Park, you still could train him for the Guineas. So look, I'm sure Ger Lyons and Juddmonte have considered all the different permutations, and they've decided that the Middle Park is the race for him. And I'm just looking forward to seeing him again, because he's such a top class horse. But yeah, it would have been great to see him against Pinatubo and Armoury in the National Stakes. It would have been, that was shaping up to be one of the races of the weekend.
Do you think, Donn, he would have? And of course, this is pure guesswork, I suppose, on our part, unless you happen to have spoken to Ger Lyons 10 minutes ago or to Teddy Grimthorpe. But do you think that were he the market leader for that race, and there wasn't a cult of the quality of Pinatubo, who incidentally is now about 1.5, I think, for the race, ahead of him in the betting, they may well have taken that lead? Do you think it's the strength of the race and the horse that tops the betting which may have just swayed them, given this stage of Siskin's career? Or do you see him as for this season an out-and-out 6 furlong horse, and therefore it is the right decision trip-wise?
Yeah, I think they're doing whatever's best for the horse, Tom. And that's everything considered: distance, opposition, potential ground, track, and also what's best for him at this stage of the year. Only the people who are closest to him know how he is, and obviously they know what his potential capabilities are better than anybody. So look, it is a pity from a racing perspective. You would have loved to have seen Siskin versus Pinatubo and Armoury thrown in for good measure as well, and a whole host of others, probably, depending on what Aidan O'Brien decides to run. And the Goffs National Stakes, the Vincent O'Brien National Stakes, it's Irish National Stakes. It's usually a top class juveniles race. It would have been great to see the unbeaten Siskin taking on the unbeaten Pinatubo over 7 furlongs, which obviously Pinatubo's proven over that. Siskin isn't yet, but it would have been fascinating. But look, it'll still be fascinating to see Siskin in the Middle Park.
Absolutely, and we look forward to that. So we've been robbed of the matchup which I thought we were going to have, because I was going to say or talk up the chances of Pinatubo in that race, and I was hoping Donn was going to chalk up the chances of Siskin, because you have been the Siskin cheerleader all throughout the year in the Matchbook Racing Review. But we do have a matchup, because I had half a mind that, Donn, you would be quite positive about Mad Moon's chances in the Irish Champion Stakes, and I am very, very sweet on the filly that heads the betting. It looks as though in the Irish Champion that Japan is going to skip the race. Now, it's not absolutely confirmed as we sit here, but Aidan O'Brien was quite revealing earlier on in the week when he was talking about Japan, saying it's most likely they will go straight to the arc, and therefore his filly heads the betting and sits quite comfortably at the top of that betting as a result.
Yeah, that's the way it's looking. All right. Look, it would have been great to see Japan in the Irish Champion Stakes as well. I thought 10 furlongs might have been on the sharp side for him, but he proved that wrong. So look, he's a just a very, very high class, top class colt. Obviously, in his absence, it does leave the door open a little bit. And yeah, look, I just think Mad Moon, he's a horse that I've kind of had a soft spot for all season, really, Tom, as you know. And yeah, I like you kind of for the Derby. I thought was hoping he might get a mile and a half. He definitely raced in the Guineas like he was a horse who'd get further than a mile and would be better over further than a mile. A mile and a half. I mean, you can argue that he did stay a mile and a half in the Derby. He's finished second in the Derby at Epsom.
He did. He got a mile and a half.
Yeah.
He just might not be at his very best over a mile and a half.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he ran a hell of a race in the Derby because he didn't have the run of the race at all. He stumbled coming down the hill. He had to go probably earlier than Chris Hayes wanted to go, but he still stayed on really well to finish second. And then after the Irish Derby, his run the last day was just a really nice run, a nice win over a mile at Leopardstown, which he loves, which I think is key as well. Like, he won his 2 juvenile races at Leopardstown. He won the last day at Leopardstown. He only got beaten. The only time he got beaten was on his debut this season at Leopardstown when he was only just beaten by Never No More over 7 furlongs on soft ground, giving away weight. So, you can easily allow him that. I thought it was quite a good run, and a lot of people were disappointed afterwards. I thought that was quite a good run as well. So we know that he goes really well at Leopardstown, and there's a good chance, I think, that 10 furlongs on fast ground is optimum for him at Leopardstown, a track that he knows well. So I think he's probably going to have to put up a career best if he's going to win it, but I think there's every chance that he will.
It's a race where I quite often look out for a 3-year-old that's getting a useful bit of weight, and history will tell you that they've got a decent record in it, going back to obviously See the Stars, who's brilliant, Kate Blanco, the Grey Gatsby, who caused a surprise by beating the other 3-year-old Australia, Golden Horn, Al Manzour, then Decorated Knight caused a big surprise at 25-1 before another 3-year-old in Roaring Lion took it last year. But just looking at it, I think we always pitch these 3-year-olds, and I think in particular 3-year-old colts, because of what they can do, their stallion careers can do afterwards, is we always tend to rate them immediately after the Derby. And I think the general consensus was it wasn't the strongest Derby because of how much in a heat they finished. But I think and that's too early to do that, but then the fallout may just confirm that. The Irish Derby felt unsatisfactory. We know that, where Mad Moon was, I think, he was ultimately tracking Anthony Van Dyke throughout the race, and it, as it turned out, it didn't work out, and it was a huge surprise with Sovereign winning the race. But I just don't know if this 3-year-old colt Mad Moon, on his best day, on what we've seen so far, is good enough to beat Magical, given what she has achieved measured up against Enable this year. I know he's got his 3-year-old allowance, so he'll carry 9-1. I think she carries 9-4. Yes, she does. So she's got to give him £3. But I was interested by the fact that with Magical, this has been the plan going into York. So she ran in the Eclipse, and then it was the case of just foot off a bit and use last time at York to really get her spot on for this. And quite rightly, she heads the betting. But I can't hand on heart say Mad Moon is going to be good enough, Don, on what he's achieved so far to beat Magical, given what she has achieved.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair case, and it's a fair point. And she sets a very high standard. She's top class. She's not that far behind Enable. They've met a good few times now, and I know while she's come off second best, she hasn't been beaten far by her on a couple of occasions, including in the Eclipse, as you said, and in the Breeders' Cup last year. Yeah, look, Mad Moon is going to have to, as I said, probably he's going to have to improve on what he's done so far. He's going to have to probably put up a career best, but I think, as you say, Tom, the record of 3-year-olds in the race is very, very good. And when a 3-year-old wins the race, he's probably put up a career best to win it. And I think Mad Moon he had a nice break after the Irish Derby. He's had a lovely run back at Leopardstown over a mile, a trip that is probably short of his best for all that he's run big races over that trip. And yeah, I think 10 furlongs Leopardstown, fast ground, good pace. He's got all he wants there, I think, and he comes into the race on a high, and I think there's a good chance that he'll step forward a fair bit from his last run, and there's a chance he will step forward by enough to beat Magical and the rest in the race.
And I suppose the fact that you can get around 7.5 for him for the 8.0 for the race is, that makes him all the more appealing as far as you're concerned in comparison to the half that and shorter about Magical. And I watched back Leopardstown when he beat Broome in the Group 2 last year on this card, and I'd almost forgotten that he was the unbeaten colt last year, 2-year-old, and he was 6-5 for that contest. And it's almost strange to think he's had 4 runs this year before winning a race. They were obviously all in good contests, but I forget how good this horse, not that he isn't now, but he was really top billing, wasn't he, coming into this 3-year-old season. So I suppose on that level, he's not quite lived up to the expectations some had, but this could be what he wants, this intermediate trip on what is going to be hopefully decent ground at a track he likes. So I can see that being ideally suiting him.
Yeah, like even after the Guineas, when he got beaten in the Guineas, if you'd have been asked then what's the race for him, you'd have said, maybe Juddmonte International, maybe Irish Champion Stakes. They were the types of races that, you're definitely thinking more 10 furlongs than 12. And while he ran a hell of a race in the Derby, still think in the Derby and maybe even more so in the Irish Derby, he raced like 10 furlongs could be his optimum more than 12. And yeah, I think, there could be a fair bit more to come from him over the trip. And no, you're absolutely right. It's kind of disappointing in a way that he didn't win a race until he won the Group 3 race last time. But as you say, one of those runs was in the Guineas and the other 2 were in the Epsom Derby and the Irish Derby. So you can kind of allow him that. And actually, his season debut, I thought was very good over a trip too short on ground that was too soft against a good horse.
So we're going head to head. I like it. Magical 3.0 and Mad Moon 7.5 in that Irish Champion. We don't need to talk about any others. We're just going with the horses we like. And we're also going head to head in a terrible trend is emerging here where I'm siding with the shorter price horse. It's not as though it's a match.
And we're betting 10 to 11 each 2 in the match. That's not fair.
Quite right. That's how this plays out, Don. The Moy Glare sees Dye up in class after her defeat last time to Raffle Prize, form that's worked out well. She's 3.75, Albania 4.5, Alpine Star 5.0 for Sen Connections. She's not going to go there. I think Philly's Mile is all but certain for her. So this is Don and I talking Dye against Albania. I'll start off with the Moy Glare and Roger Varian, who's got a great record with his Irish Raiders. I thought she raced in the wrong part of the track last time at Newmarket. Raffle Prize came up the rail. It suited her ideally to race where she did. I was quite put on the pod. No, I think on the Racing Review actually we did something similar for Newmarket and talked about how Frankie was very likely to make all up the rail because that's where you want to be, and that's how it turned out. But Dye has form ahead of Raffle Prize, and I certainly wouldn't suggest that she's the inferior filly for all she was getting weight on that occasion for Raffle Prize. She tried to come from off the pace, not easy to do, particularly at the July course, and she just raced off the rail as well. I think she may well put that form behind her. I think she's right, she heads the betting, and I think she's the one to beat. Now, Albania, I know you like her, and quite rightly. Does the form in any way that Albania's win last time, is it in any way a worry to you? Because not much has come out and won, but was it more the manner of the victory you like?
Yeah, it was the manner of the victory multiplied by the step up in trip. Like, look, of course, you would have liked to have seen the race work out a wee bit better than it has so far. And I take your point in Daya. There's an awful lot to like about her. And she, while her Royal Oscar win the Albany was on easy ground, it was fast ground the last time at Newmarket, and that was a big run against Raffle Prize. Yeah, I just think like Albania is the last day in the Group 2 race. She didn't look a likely winner until very deep inside the final furlong, and she finished off her race so strongly. That was over 6 furlongs, stepping up in trip to 7. That's obviously going to suit her. Like her dam, she's all middle distance bred, so the step up, it's remarkable. She was able to win a Group 2 race over 6, I think. So the step up to 7 is almost certainly going to bring about improvement, and maybe even significant improvement. It was only her second run as well. It was at the Curragh, which where our maiden win was as well when she beat Tango. So yeah, again, she's another, like all these 2-year-olds, they're going to improve. Like Daya has only run 3 times, she's run twice, so their potential for progression is obvious. And the fact that the other factor which I think is important is that Jessica Harrington has such a strong team of juvenile fillies, and there's Albanian Alpine Star and Kay and Pepper are probably the three who've come to the fore among a whole slew of really good 2-year-old fillies that Jessica Harrington has.
I forgot Kay and Pepper was even in this. She's in it, isn't she?
Yeah, she's in it. I think
You wouldn't think she'd come back in trip.
No, I think she'll be over a mile. I think maybe she's Philly's mile and Alpine Star is pre-Marcel Busak. I think that's what Jessica said after the last day. But
I heard that Alpine Star was more Philly's mile, but equally that was more connections based. Sorry, that was more owner side of things. But I suppose that's the point. They've got options. Either way, Alpine Star looks almost certain to go up. Well, will go up in trip, be it Philly's mile or Marcel Busak, and Kay and Pepper will stay over that mile. And Albania, she's going to go up in trip, but obviously 7 is the next logical step. But they've got Jessie's been unreal with her juvenile fillies this year. It's unprecedented, isn't it? Given what we've seen this year, I know she's had some brilliant fillies in the past, but the amount and her strike rate seems above or better than ever this year.
Yeah, no, it's the number of them and exactly the strike rate and the number of juvenile fillies she's won with. And even early in the season when Windracer won her maiden, she looked like she could be as good as them all. I know she's disappointed twice since, but they're kind of excuses for her last 2 runs. So Windracer is a filly that to keep in mind as well. I think she's a filly that Jessica Harrington and her team held in very high regard. So yeah, the fact that Albania is her pick for the Moidlair, that's not to say that she's the best of them. It's just that she has such a choice, and this is the race that she and the Niarchos family and connections have decided is the right race for Albania. And I think when you have so many high class fillies, you can get a fair handle on where they stand relative to each other. And I think Jessica was saying that they kind of bring each other on as well. Like the good ones, the next one is good because the last one was good, and they. However they communicate or psychologically, they said that she thinks that they bring each other on as well, and yeah, I think the definitely the step up, and Albania is a filly who could even get further than 7 furlongs either this season or later.
Do you know? I don't know if you've been there if you've seen any of the juveniles. Somebody mentioned to me about the fact that there are national hunt horses at the yard as well. And whether or not I know it's different time of year and some will be out to grass, etc. But that's, of course, she does have jumpers over the summer as well. But whether the juvenile fillies get a chance to go out with those older horses and whether or not that might just bring them forward that step more as well. Somebody was just questioning me about that and I didn't have an answer. But I don't know if that is the case. But all of our horses seem very professional. First up, and the young horses seem to know their job, and I just wonder if it's something to do with that at home. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't been down there this year now, but I can't remember if they all go out together. I think from memory now, maybe it's just because because we were down there to do some filming. She had all the horses that we wanted to see out together, so I can't remember that there was a mix of them. And maybe there are, at different times, but. It is amazing what she's done or doing with flat and national hunt. There was a time where I remember asking Jessica, was she a national hunt trainer who kind of had a few flat horses, and she was like, no, dual purpose trainer, very much so. And that isn't that the case? Like she's top class on the flat and top class over jumps as well.
Yeah, I love that. But I know you 5 years ago I'd have erred to or gone more towards national hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much dual purpose.
Yeah.
Just in that same race, I just wanted to mention Love. I don't know if she's going to run in it, but in the race won by Alpine Star, I forget the name of the race, but I thought that given how she was ridden in the race, just how it developed, they went pretty hard and it didn't suit her. And I think she's probably better than she showed that day. Her finishing position, I think, was based upon where she raced in the early part of the race, which didn't do her any favours. So I'm Team Dyer very much, but I think Love is better than she showed last time.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. And Petite Moustique, if she goes for that race, it's going to be interesting to see what Aidan O'Brien does and which of his fillies he runs, because she was only just beaten by Alpine Star last time in that race in the Debutante Stakes. And she won that fillies juvenile at Galway that has been won by Hermosa and Dance Design, and I think Hydrangea was beaten in it. And a 0-1. It's been just a top class juvenile fillies race, and Petite Mystique won that well, and then was only just beaten next time. So she's another progressive filly. So I think whatever Aidan O'Brien runs, I suppose it's going to be a common theme throughout the whole weekend. It's definitely going to be a player in the race. But yeah, I just think that Albinia's she's got more potential for progression than most in the race.
Whichever Aidan O'Brien runs, of the 16 that are in there currently. So there you go. I was counting. Okay, so I'm Team Diane that given the her positioning last time, and Donn is sweet enough on Albinia. Top 2 in the betting. We're not being that brave here, but there you go. Now, one other, we were looking to find 3 horses each for this, and one other, they come in different races respectively for each of us. Donn, you can kick us off. You're turning your attention to the Irish St. Ledger.
Yeah, just interesting that Dermot Well confirmed today that Search for a Song is probably going to run in the Irish Ledger, and it's a big step for a 3-year-old filly to take on older horses in a St. Ledger. But she's a filly that she's hugely likable. Like she ran in the Irish Oaks, and she did really well to finish 4th that day. She was very, very keen for a lot of the race, and even when she came under pressure, she kept on really well. She wasn't beaten that far by Starcatcher in the end in a race that was run, as we know, Agitatori dictated his pace, and it was run at a sedate enough pace that you'd forgive a filly like her, as inexperienced as her, to run as keenly as she did for much of the race. That was only her 3rd ever run. Then she went to York and won the Galtres Stakes impressively. She stayed on really well that day to win. And yeah, she's like, again, she's another progressive filly. So that's just her 4th run. She didn't run as a juvenile. Stepping up in grade, obviously, into a Group 1. Well, not from, obviously, the Oaks, the Irish Oaks, a Group 1 race as well, but the Galtres, a listed race, is it?
I think, yes.
Yeah, so, but again, she's going to have to improve to win an Irish Ledger, but she gets all the allowances. And I kind of thought the Irish St. Ledger was very difficult for 3-year-olds. It's statistically, it has been. But then last year, the first 2 home were 3-year-olds. And if you get no more than the Irish Champion Stakes for all of this over a shorter trip, if you can hit on a progressive 3-year-old, then it is possible for them to make that step. And she's one who she'll probably improve for step up and trip. She'll probably improve for all her experience anyway. And the fact that Dermot Well has mentioned the Irish St. Ledger as her potential target, then that's very significant. So yeah, I just think she's a likable filly who's going to make her mark at a high level, and it could be in the Irish St. Ledger.
Just on that, I thought it was interesting that Capri, who I think looks a very likely runner, who was said not to have been fit when he ran in the trial last time, in behind Southern France, who actually isn't in the race. There was one I was looking out for. So I was half surprised by that, but it made me think Capri could be half interesting. Go on.
Yeah, he's been you kind of expected more from him all season, really. He's a very, obviously, he's a top class horse. I was kind of, at the start of the season, I was thinking he could be a cup horse. He could be the one to step up and challenge Stradivarius, but that hasn't happened. But maybe, he hasn't been sent off at mad prices in many of his races. And yeah, it could be that he comes good. He has the talent. It's just a case of him, if he can go close to his 3-year-old, the best of his 3-year-old form, then look, he'd be a player in any race, including in this race.
But search for a song for Donn in the Irish St. Ledger. My last shout is in the form of Sophia, who runs in the Group 1 Flying 5, a definite runner in that. Now, part of this is the fact that she's a definite runner in comparison to some other horses, and I'm not sure whether they're going to run. The likes of 10 Sovereigns, ? Would always build as running in this, but then, of course, the Nunthorpe happened and Group 1 over 5 didn't seem obvious. I'm not sure if anything's come to light about that, or whether you know anything gone on that. And I suppose the other Aidan O'Brien runner, who's running a few 5 furlong races this year and may well take this on, is Sergei Prokofiev. I don't know, but Sophia looks a definite runner. She loves the Curragh, and she just it was a career best last time, comfortably, dropping back to 5 after the Group 3 ran over 6. My goodness me, she took them apart. Now, Archie Watson's horse has come out in the Nunthorpe and finished second and done the form no harm. I know she only beat El Astronaute, but it was a phenomenal performance about a filly who's just getting better and better. We often talk about sprinters getting better and better. And I think Fast Eddie's got another really good one. Now, the funny thing is, if Sophia had been lining up 5-6 years ago when Eddie Lynham was at the peak of his Fast Eddie powers, I think she's going to go off a shorter price, and she's likely to here. But I still think she might be a touch underestimated coming in here, given some bigger names who may well line up. But I think she's going to take some beating back over that same course and distance, Don. So I'd be pretty sweet on Sophia, who's now rated 115.
Yeah, I could agree with everything you just said. Like I think Eddie Lynham said after. Well, we agree on one thing. I think he said after the last day that she was getting faster. You know, and I think she even surprised him, Eddie Lynham, with the, I suppose, the ease with which she won. Yeah, look, she's always been a nice filly, but kind of Group 3 rated listed class. But no, this year, I mean, even when she won at the Curragh the time before that over 6, and it looked the last day as if she was more effective over 5 furlongs than she was over 6. So yeah, no, she's a very, and in fairness to Eddie Lynham, directly after that race, he said flying 5. That's where she was going. So yeah, this has been her target since then.
We know that Batash is going to skip it. So they're and I just, you don't know anything about 10 Sovereigns, Don?
I think this is the plan. Yeah, I mean, the plan is to go there. I
hope to be honest, I hope he lines up from a price angle, because I'd be keen enough. Yeah, York, I know it can throw up some funny things, and that was a funny performance. But I'd be keen enough to take him on if he lines up, and you'd be getting a better price about something else if he does. So fair enough.
Mabs Cross is definitely going, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she'll go, and she. Again, she'd have every chance there. She's just been a bit flat her last couple of starts. Don't know why. I think she's just a bit shy.
Yeah, no, I thought she'd run better. Sorry?
I think she's just a bit shy of Group 1 level. But
yeah.
I know she's won a Group 1. She's won an Abbey before you all scream at me. But, so it's difficult to say that. I just think she's just, up against a Batash, and he's not in here, and some other of the top sprinters. I find Sophia more exciting against her personally.
Yeah, she comes into the race on a high, whereas Mabs Cross, I mean, after a big run the last year in the Nunthorpe, and she was only just beaten by Alfred Delfini, you would have thought, I expect her to run better in this year's Nunthorpe than she did, when there was no real reason why she didn't run up to her. I mean, I thought her Palace House win when she was giving away weight was a hell of a run.
Best
and
run this year.
Yeah. So that I thought that set her up for a season, another lucrative season ahead. But just because, and maybe it's a recency bias because her last run was a wee bit disappointing. You're kind of going, maybe as a 5-year-old filly, maybe that's she's not going to improve anymore. But if you ignore her York run, she's bang there in the mix. It's just she's coming into the race on the back of a disappointing run.
Yeah, I thought Ascot as well. She wasn't quite as good as she was 12 months ago. I realised saying a horse who's won a Group 1 and been touched off by a pixel in another Group 1 is below Group 1 level. Ridiculous. But this year, she's just looked under it for me. So that's why I'd be keen enough to oppose her. Good stuff. Who is the one, Don? Who is the one of those 3 horses that if you had to back one of them, who would it be?
I think, like, we don't have price on the Irish Ledger yet, so I'm not sure what they're going to do with Search for Song. But I think Mad Moon is interesting. I thought his Irish Champion Stakes price is good enough for all that he has in his favour: track, ground, probably trip, and potential to progress. He has to, but I think he has the potential to do that. I think his value at that price for all of that. What's your best of the 3?
Mine would actually be Dye. I think she was so inconvenienced by where she raced. I think she's pretty damn good. So yeah, and stepping up in trip I think will suit her. So rather than take you on in the Irish Champion, if I had to bat one at the current prices, I know she's fab, but it would be her. So we'll see.
We will.
And we will be back, Don, on Friday, because we, Don, myself, Jane Mangan and Declan Ricks are going to do an Irish Champion Stakes weekend special and throw in the St Ledger as well from Doncaster, because that's a Group 1 as well. So we're going to be focusing on, there are 7 Group 1s. We probably won't do all of those, but we'll be focusing on those in the main and a preview, which will be out from Friday morning. So, Don, I look forward to chatting to you then, sir.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Tom.
Good man. Thanks, Don. Thanks to those of you at home for watching this racing review, and see you for the pod previewing a stunning weekend's racing on Friday. See you then. Bye for now.